The $1,000,000 question: how do entrepreneurs transition from self-employed to owning a business that turns a profit? My name is Chris Waters, and this podcast has the $1,000,000 answer. Welcome to CEO Secrets. All right, hey guys, it's Chris Waters, the host of CEO Secrets. I am super honored to have Jeff Cook. Jeff is a juggernaut in the real estate industry. I had the privilege of meeting Jeff about, 6, 7, 8 years ago, around 2012, 2013. And I always remember Jeff because he was probably one of the most humble, nice, ambitious, driven guys I got to know in some of the masterminds and real estate events. And I frequently would see Jeff on stage, and people were always honoring Jeff. I remember Jeff when you got the Honey Badger Award. And what's super cool that I love about you, Jeff, is I think a lot of people in the real estate industry that are using the team-centric model, everybody's kind of chasing getting to 500 closings, but like you were one of the few people that like you were dead set on getting to 1,000 plus closings. Like that's where your head was at. And you were telling me that like 5, 6, 7 years ago. So anyways, I'm excited to get into that journey, but Jeff, welcome to the show. Why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself, background, how you got into real estate, all that good stuff.
Hey, thank you guys for having me along. It's an honor to be a part of the podcast here and honored to share some knowledge with everybody that's watching. And thank you for hosting and putting this on for us. I do appreciate it. As he said, Jeff Cook, and primarily in the Charleston, South Carolina market. We've got a couple expansion markets in Greenville, South Carolina, Columbia, South Carolina, Rock Hill, Charlotte area as well. And it's been a fun ride. As Chris said, probably, I don't know, about 5, 6 years ago, we caught a vision to try to get to 1,000 families served. We call it family served instead of transactions, just because it makes it a little more personable and makes the agents and the team feel a little more, excited about actually wanting to take that opportunity on and to serve a family. It makes a purpose for what we're doing, right? So 1,000 families served was our mission. About 5 years ago, we were fortunate enough 2 years ago to hit that, which we're really excited. This past year, we were about 13 and change on transactions, 1,300. And this year, we're going to be somewhere around the 1,700 mark on number of transactions.
Man.
Yeah,
that's
so
killing
cool.
It, man.
Yeah, it's
killing
fun.
It. That's awesome.
And we're doing that in a team-centric model. A lot of people say there's no way you're doing that in a team model. We are. We're doing that in a team model. And basically what I mean by that is we've got about 80 agents. They're all in traditional, 50-50 type deal. We're giving them leads and this, so of all those transactions, we're doing about 88% actually are company-given transactions, and the other 12% are agent-found transactions. So this isn't just turn them loose and send them out to the bars and the churches and wherever else and, go find who you can buy. Like this is business that we're generating, giving to the agents, closing it out on a split type of an arrangement. So it's been fun, man. I've been at it for 16 years. It's really been, the first 8 years was our quest to try to figure out how to break through 100 transactions.
Hey, let me
8 years to do that. Yeah.
Were you naturally a good salesperson?
No, horrible. I'm actually an introvert, man. I'm sitting here cringing right now as being on camera. Can you tell? I was an introvert, man. And
how did you learn? Like, what did you do to go become a good salesperson so you could go teach other people?
Well, I started off, in college. I actually was doing some sales in college. I was working for Circuit City back in the day before they closed up shop. Selling TVs and audio equipment and all that. So, the thing that helped me with is that they just churned through a bunch of people coming in and out the door. So you could, with real estate, it takes 45 to 90 days to get a transaction done, right? So you hope that it goes well and you hope you're doing everything along the way, but every night it's a 45-day cycle, right? Well, selling a TV, it's a 30-minute cycle. I'm just burning through, presentation after presentation after presentation. So I was able to hone my skill by doing some retail sales prior to real estate. So I was able to read people and know what to say, learn what to say, what not to say, and all that. So that was an advantage.
I got to tell you something, dude. I've been meaning to tell you this for years and years and years.
Let's hear it.
I've been dying to tell you this. So one of my first jobs, like legit jobs where I was a W-2 employee,
right,
was Circuit City. My
no
first
way.
job.
That's so funny.
So prior to Circuit City, I worked under the table mowing yards, and because I was too young. And so I got a job at Circuit City when I was 16, and this was 1998, 99.
Right.
And I got fired from Circuit City. So I don't know if you remember this, but at Circuits, I love that. I've been wanting to tell you this for years. So at Circuit City, I don't know if you remember this, but we got 70% off car audio equipment.
Right.
And so
a lot of markup. Yeah.
I used to so in 1998 and 99, if you remember, eBay launched. Do you remember that when eBay launched?
Yeah.
So eBay launched, and I was making I was one of those hourly people, selling cordless phones.
Right.
And so my commission was really small. I made 50 cents for selling a extended home warranty or whatever,
Yeah.
So I sold the shit out of those things, but I could never make more than 12, 13, 14 bucks an hour. And so I started buying car audio equipment from Circuit City and putting it on eBay.
At cost. You bought it at cost and sold it. And so you got fired. That's hilarious. Well,
So I actually, I didn't know I was doing anything wrong. I was 16 years old. I was oh, I'm going to take advantage of my employee discount. That's why they give it to me.
Right. As much as you want, right?
I got hauled into this room by the store manager of Circuit City with this guy on speakerphone that sounded like a private detective or law enforcement person. They scared the shit out of me. I thought they were going to send me to jail for doing this or something. And so they were just trying to intimidate me to tell them the truth, right? That's what I figured out. And they pulled up on the computer. Remember those old DOS computers, the green text and everything? They pull up this super long list, page after page, and it's all the stuff I had bought. And they thought I was stealing stuff to make the money to pay for it. And I had bought over $30,000 worth of car audio equipment. So anyways,
Dude,
I've been meaning to tell you that story for years.
You didn't know you were doing anything wrong at all, right?
I had no idea.
Of course not. I got you, man.
Yeah.
That's a good real estate agent right there, man. You got to know where that line's up, baby. You got to know where that line's up. That's funny. But yeah, man, that's the story, It literally took 8 years to break through 100, man. But after we did 100, then it was, 220 and then 320 and then 380 and on from there. So
what was the aha? If you could go back in time, what was the big nugget that gets you to break through 100? What was it?
It was a couple things. First off, from the marketing standpoint, when people finally started realizing who we were and the referrals started coming in. So I was a horrible leader, self-admitted. I was a horrible leader. I learned a little bit of sales skill down at the Circuit City, but I didn't know how to lead people. I definitely didn't know how to lead people. Definitely not encourage people. Definitely didn't know how to motivate non-commissioned salespeople. Had no idea how to do that. And so trying to, I tried to break through 100 myself, by myself, and that was a disaster because I did 90 transactions and about run myself crazy, and that wasn't sustainable. So then I started trying to build a team, and then I got guys doing 14, 15 deals. I'm trying to make them get to 80 deals like I'm at, and I'm like, dude, if we can get, I just had a plan. I remember writing this down. I was like, if I can get 10 agents doing 80 deals each, man, we'll be at 800 transactions. They'd be making a couple $100,000 a year. And I was
Sounds so simple.
Yeah, it sounds so easy. I mean, everybody get rich on an Excel spreadsheet, right? It's easy. I was like, we only need an office that can hold maybe 15 total, about 5 admins and 8 Slayer agents, whatever, man. It just didn't work. So needless to say, we had to back up a drawing board. But it was figuring out how to communicate. That's really the big deal, and communicate to not only the other agents more efficiently, and it's a process of building some of your systems up, your checklist, and how do you communicate to operations versus communicate to internal agents, your agents that work for you, and communicate with leads, scripting. It's all that. It's really all about communication and leadership, I think, is what caused it. Same thing that caused you to get past 1,000, by the way. It's interesting, just on a different level.
Yeah. So you broke past 1,000 and got to 380, hit 5, and then 1,000. And so if I'm hearing you right, the one core thing is communication, leadership. I remember, so I've never, I'm not with Keller Williams, but I remember this acronym that they had in some class called, class was called Recruit Select, I believe. I don't think they have it anymore, but the acronym they have, and this is the acronym that basically describes the role of the owner and any future leaders. And I thought it was really, really good, which is why I talk about it, but it's recruit, select, train, lead, and motivate. You got to master those things, not actually being a better salesperson to actually build a big business.
It's true. Yeah, it's very true. Yeah, very true. Yeah, it's lead, and so it's funny, as far as the evolution of building a team, right, is replacing yourself when you bring buyer agents in, replacing yourself with, in front of a buyer. That's there's a challenge to that. That's what you got to be thinking about when you're trying to get past 100, right? And then after that, it's like, okay, well, crap, how do you place yourself in front of a couple sellers? Like you get a few listing appointments that you no longer want to be the guy going out on. You're trying to work your way out of production. Replacing yourself there. That's a challenge. And we could spend the next hour and a half talking just about that. But
what were some of your early lead sources when the first like 0 to 100? What was like the stuff that worked really, really good for you?
Man, back then it was Craigslist. Believe it or not, we were maybe that's why it took us so long to get past 100. Is we were operating all day on Craigslist. but back then, man, Craigslist was amazing. Believe it or not, and it was it was free. So we were posting 15, 20, 30 ads a day on Craigslist and get a ton of leads, man, a couple hundred leads a month from it. But it was a combination of that, and also back then newspapers worked. So again, that's back 15 years ago, right? So as far as breaking through, though,
were you calling expires and withdrawals? Did you do that?
A little bit, yeah, a little bit. When I was doing the production myself personally, I found that it's challenging in order to try to get an agent to stick around a long time doing that. So we have some ISAs that do that now. But we never really made it big off of doing expires and for sale by owners. Where we really started, catching our ground was, generating just a ton of buyer leads, and then finding a lot of those buyer leads also have to then turn around and sell. Yeah. That's really where we got going. So I had a small army. Today we got 80 agents, right? So, over time we've always been agent heavy and trying to, grow that transaction count. So we lead with agent hires, and naturally they're going to sell something as long as you got the right person on board. So keeping a large number of agents is always been a mantra that we've had. And as a result of that, we needed a large amount of buyer leads. And we found out that over time, those people also have to sell a house. And so that was one of our first easy listing lead generation sources is a buyer that has a home to sell.
Now you made a big transition at some point where you started like your business became more 50-50 and you started doing a lot more listing side stuff. Mm-hmm. What transaction count was that? And then I know what you were doing, but maybe share with the audience what you were doing.
Yeah, so interestingly enough, we've never officially hit 50% listing side. We've always been between 50 and 60% buy side on our business. We've never actually crossed into the threshold of having more listings than buyers. And there was a big aha for me in that, man. You know what the aha was? It was, a lot of team structures. Let's say it's a team of 6, right? Typically what you find there's a team of 6. You got one main, say the team leader or whatever that also does listings, and maybe one other person that's qualified to do listings, right? So you got maybe 2 people, maybe 3, but that are typically doing listings, and then you got 6 that can do, plus a team leader that can work a good buyer, right? And so you got 6 people that can work buyers, and you got 2 people that can work listings. And it's like, wait a minute, why is that, right? And so what I had was the opposite problem. I had, imagine that expanded into like a team of 30, right? And so now I've got 4 or 5, 6 agents that can do listings and 24 agents that can do buyers, and it's like, no wonder we're doing more buyer transactions. So we made a shift, and this has actually helped even it out. We made a shift that we told all of our agents, look, if you want to do listings, do listings. You're an agent. You're not licensed just to do buyers. You're licensed to do real estate. So if you want to do listings, let's do it. And so we put them through a training class. We have what's called qualified and certified. So there's either nothing, which is when you come in, you do buyers, but then you can immediately take a class to become qualified. And then we do that through Trainio, by the way, which is our online training platform that anybody can get access to. It's just got a lot of our own resources and tools that we've built and videos we've built on the inside of it.
I want to have just a little debate with you real quick. So my opinion regarding agents, being specialized is that it's less about making them work buyers or sellers, and it's more about helping. It's more about you as a leader understanding how to develop a career trajectory path for your agents. Right. And so my perspective, and I want to hear what you think, but my perspective is when you have a newer agent, ideally they start out on the buy side because the contracts are more forgiving. Like the buyer presentation and getting the people committed to working to you is easier than a seller. Mm-hmm. And so, you kind of learn inside sales, managing your pipeline, setting appointments, you start mastering how to get people committed to working with you that don't know you. And then you kind of start understanding the market as a buyer agent because you're out in the field. So you kind of knock down those 3 dominoes and master the buy side. And then that's when you move on to the listing side. So, I'm a big fan of starting people out on the buy side and then, cross-training them to do listings so they can work their sphere, or for some people, they just love listings more than buyers, and we just load them up on the listing side. What's your opinion on that?
Yeah, same thing for us. Here's the thought. Whenever you, like you mentioned earlier with the dominoes, it's whenever you're doing a buyer, the buyer client isn't really interviewing you; they're interviewing the house they're going to live in long term. So that's why when somebody's moving to Austin, Charleston, whatever it may be, they're not really searching. Tell me the top agent, right? They're saying, show me homes for sale, and they're looking for the commodity of the house. They're not really looking for the agent. And it doesn't matter whether it's me, you, or anybody else listening to this thing. Whoever has access to that house, you can get them in, or gets that lead and calls them and talks about that house, is who they're willing to buy the house from. So they don't really care about the agent. They don't care which agent helps them with it, because they're more concerned about the commodity. And on the seller side, it's much different, right? They're interviewing you as the agent. They want to know what's your song and dance, and show me this interview. I'm interviewing you. You tell me what you can do. And you're right. It takes a while more for an agent to typically get comfortable with being able to field those type of questions and ideas, to be able to be put on the spotlight at the kitchen table in their home turf, to be able to decide, hey, do I have the confidence enough to go in and list this house as a presentation in their home? So I agree with you. Definitely start on the buy side. The aha for us on that was just simply that there's no reason for us to just have buyer agents if they don't want to just be buyer agents, right? So when they get in, they do 2, 3, 4 buyer transactions. If they want to start talking about listings, we're totally open to that conversation. Whereas 2 years ago, 3 years ago, it's like, no, man, there's only a certain amount of spots on the listing team. And when you really prove yourself and start knocking back 15, 20 deals a year, then we'll talk to you about potentially getting on the listing team. And we've completely switched that mindset now, where if you want to do listings, man, let's go do listings,
Do you, and you have an inside sales team setting appointments for your listing agents, right?
Yeah, but it's not on all of our incoming calls do not go to the ISAs. But yeah, we do have an ISA team. It's a team of 8. We just went from 4 to 8. We doubled it in size. So we're gonna see how that goes. The ISA team always has a certain amount. No matter what, I've never seen an ISA team that's more than 1 or 2 people that doesn't have a fair amount of drama floating within it anywhere in the country. I mean, you know the drill on this thing. So there's always a little bit of drama floating in the ISA world. If they didn't have a fair amount of drama, they'd probably be agents, right? So that's just who they are. So anyways, but yeah, so our ISA team receives leads, but they don't receive incoming calls. The incoming calls go to our agents that are on duty. We have a duty day set up, and we have a listing duty and a buyer duty every single day, every single location. So whenever those listing leads come in as a real-time phone call, they run straight to that listing agent sitting at the duty desk ready to get that listing call.
So you had one primary office, and then you started opening up multiple offices, and that's how you started having some deep penetration in your city from a market saturation perspective.
Yeah.
I remember years ago, you telling me the first time you opened up your first one, culture became kind of a difficult thing to maintain. And that feeling people have in the office. What helped you fix that? Well,
it's funny, man. Culture is a hard thing no matter what. Even if you got everybody under one roof, it's a hard thing. But I remember back whenever we launched our first location, what it was actually an agent in my area that phoned me up. And a lot of this happened by luck, to be honest with you. I mean, I didn't have some grand plan and all that, but I look back on it and I'm like, man, a lot of the trajectory that we took worked out by luck. And this is one of those examples. Thank God this guy didn't live 4 states away. He lived in my city, which is nice. So he phoned me up one day and he said, hey, would you be willing to coach me on how to do real estate and build a team like you're building? And I was like, no. I was like, you're my competitor here in my city. So no, and do that, but you can join me. And we opened the office together and, we'll split the profit or whatever. And so we ended up meeting and, wrote the business plan on the back of a napkin. And that was our first expansion office. And it literally was 15 miles away from our main office, but in the same city. And again, thank God the guy didn't live 4 states away. Not that he wasn't the right fit. It's just doing expansion a long way away, man. You better really have a solid nucleus, right? And so, you figured out a lot of that, Chris. But as far as us, it was really helpful to us. If we're doing expansion onto the same brand, you're providing leads for them, but it's all your expense, you better be able to get down to it in the car, at a short amount of time if you want to. And so we found that worked. And so the reason that we placed the office where we placed it at is because we were getting a lot of listing appointments over there, but a lot of the agents over there were throwing us under the bus saying, he's more of the agent, he's a good agent, but he's more of the agent over on the west side of town. Right? Like that's the deal. We're more on the west side. And so We went over to the east side and slapped up a beachhead and a sign and an office right on Main Street there, as big a sign as we could buy. And I was like, okay, now what are they going to say, right? And so like that's how we did our first expansion, and we started winning all those listing appointments.
Do you feel like that actually did that help a lot, having that physical office there?
Then it did, yeah, it really did. For us, the offices make a big deal, make a big, I think after you really get a name established, I don't know that it's as big, but it also depends on the signage that you have. The main reason we chose that particular one, it was right on Main Street. I could have a 25-foot wide sign. And I invested 10 grand, 15 grand, I don't remember what it was. It was some expensive sign that we had that literally there's a huge car count driving right by it every single day, and then we just dropped Facebook ads, right on top of that whole area saying, check our office out, now serving this area. And that helped big time with our conversion. We went from not winning a lot of appointments over there to winning almost every appointment over there because of the beachhead and the sign.
Let me ask them, what's behind you? I see a picture behind your right shoulder of a billboard. What is that?
You really want to know?
Yeah.
Hold on. So we actually have 3 of them there, and those are all cease and desist letters from attorneys that represent these particular billboard companies. So like this one, bring it a little closer. So that one is the Game of Homes.
Oh my God, I love it.
Yeah, and then
is that you on the left side?
Yeah, that's me on the left side. Yeah, right there. You see it?
Yeah,
that's me. And then and this is straight from HBO. Up here on the top.
Oh my
God. Yeah, right there,
dude. So, I would get that. I'd get that to plaque too. You're doing something right when you get their attention.
Yeah, I got one from Mattel there. I got one from.
Oh, let me see the other ones. I want to see the other ones.
Yeah.
This is amazing.
Yeah. So this one. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. It says unauthorized use of Lego group trademarks. Isn't that funny?
Oh my God.
Anyways, and then the last one is this one came from Bob Barker Studios, because we did The Price is Right, the right home price.
Oh my God.
So anyways, well, and we're not, I appreciate you bringing that up publicly. We're not really trying to display that out there publicly. Since you asked, I'll tell you about it. But hey, it's all good. So we're not trying to rub it in their face. These guys cease and desist. The last thing I want to do is get in a fight with any of those guys, right? So
no, it's I'm not telling you that you don't already know. Like, your creativity with billboards is like bananas.
Yeah, it's huge. You're right. It's been a fun ride, man. So those guys, every time we put a billboard up, we have it like a 30 to 45 day rotation, right? So the minute they send the cease and desist, we're already starting to pull it down. So we got a new one coming up, and then another cease and desist letter come, we'll pull it down. So
oh my God, that's awesome. Yeah. You do a ton of billboards, you do radio. What else? You got inside salespeople call in.
Yeah, we do a ton of like I said earlier, we do a ton of pay-per-click. And I think that's, we do it under a pretty unique model, which is called the pond. We call it the cook pot. Some other people call it the pond, which is, essentially we generate around 4,000 leads a month, 2,500 of which are pay-per-click, 1,500 other various sources. But let's just talk about the 2,500 pay-per-click leads for a minute. What we do is we drop all those into a centralized, we call it the cook pot, some people call it the pond. Everybody can see those leads. So when I have a new agent joining, they can see those leads. The senior agent can see those leads. And then after everybody's calls and warms them up, we're talking 100,000 leads sitting in this thing total, because we get 2,500 more adding in every single month, right? And so what happens is the team just goes to work, just pounding those. And as they warm somebody up, then we pull it out of that, move it over to their account, so it's just their lead. So if they establish a relationship with it, then they're assigned that specific lead themselves. And there's a couple of things that are really nice about that. Number one is whenever I bring a brand new agent on, they don't have to wait for the round robin to get every 15th lead, 20th lead or whatever, and then take 3 months in order to get a stack of 40 leads. They literally turn it on and they can see 100,000 leads on day one. And it's like, dude, that's impressive, man. That's really strong for recruiting. The other thing is whenever they pull those leads out and they assign them only to themselves, there's a max number. You can only have, 35 at a time. So if an agent leaves us, I know exactly which 35 pieces of business that I need to keep my eye on to make sure company deals stay company deals, or we need to talk about referral fees, because again, that's the 35 hottest people that they've been working that they've pulled out and moved over. So if an agent's got, again, agent stays with you 5-6 years, got 700 leads assigned to them, how are you going to keep up with 700 deals, versus 30-35? So it helps us coming in and it helps us going out.
What's your favorite piece of technology, Jeff? Like, what are some of your favorite pieces of new tech? Shiny objects for people to go chase.
Shiny objects to spend money on, you don't need to spend money on. I'll tell you what we just signed up with. So a challenge that we've had is trying to keep track of reviews, right? Because an online presence, we was talking with a couple other guys this morning, and online presence, online reviews, Google reviews, Facebook reviews, Zillow reviews, all that stuff is important but not urgent, right? Like the only time it's urgent is if you get a 1-star review and you need to, bury it by adding a couple 5-star reviews on top of it, right? But other than that, it's just not really urgent. But it's something that's so critical to build your business. And so the reason I bring this up is I was running the stats this morning, and we've got 920 Zillow, we got about 1,200 Google, and then about 800 or so Facebook reviews. The interesting thing, the reason we've got so many is because we've got, again, 7 locations. So each location may only have 100 to 150, Google reviews, but collectively we got over 1,000. And I'm like, man, there's just got to be a better way to do this, right? And so I ran across something called Bird Eye and another one called Gather Kudos. And we're actually going to sign up into Bird Eye, which will give you a full-blown dashboard, which will show, and you can set up stages, right? So what it'll do is it'll basically, like at stage 1, whenever it goes pending or listing or pending or closing, it's almost like when you check into a hotel. You get the emails like happy face, sad face, and you can talk about it. The sad faces get routed one way, the happy faces get routed to leave a review. It's exactly what this is doing. And it's all controlled by staff, so I don't have to, have the agents worried about going out and tracking these reviews down. Some of them are very good at it, some are not, but automatically will now send out, how did the agent do for you? At the listing, the pending, and the closing process, we'll take the temperature 3 different times. And if those are ever a happy face, then what happens is they then leads them to go leave an online review for us. So our goal there is to keep track of the agents, almost like an NPS score, but separately than that is almost to continue to grow our online brand. So whenever the agents come, go, whatever they may do, I'm still left holding a large amount of equity in 5-star reviews.
So we actually had Bird Eye for a year, about 2 years ago. And we just had a really hard time, like exceeding 20% of our total number of closings to get reviews left, even with Bird Eye. And so I thought maybe we were doing something wrong. And I don't know, like it's something you got to really pay attention to as you build your brand. For people watching this, you should know Bird Eye is kind of expensive. It's $500 a month. $300, $400, $500 a month. It's pretty expensive. So if you're a single agent or you have a small team, like it's the thing that I discovered that's like a little better when you're trying to be a little more frugal with your cash is just doing monthly competitions where you give away cash and prizes and stuff to get people to get reviews. That's the thing we had the most success with, but also Yelp is so hard to get reviews.
Yelp is horrible, man. It's Yelp is like the evil enemy, right? And so even if and people say you got to pay to play with Yelp, and it's like, man, even when we write them a check, our reviews still get buried and ghosted. That's the thing. But going back to the review challenge that you're talking about, so here's something that we did. We've actually increased 200 in the past 60 days, and we haven't signed up for Bird Eye yet. So here's what we did. We did a lot of what you're talking about. We basically said to the agents, look, if you want to make, whenever you turn your commission, your closing in or whatever, if you want to make an extra $10, turn it in with a Google review, extra $20 Google and Facebook, extra $30 Google, Facebook, and Zillow. And so they're already thinking about payday, right? You got payday coming. So it's like, how can I maximize that payday and actually make an extra $10, $20, or $30? And so I told the company, I said, look, I'm fine with you guys going out and getting reviews. You run it up. Obviously, Zillow, they got to do business with you, right? If not, you'll piss Zillow off. They'll actually delete your account. And so anyway, the point is that we've added 200 reviews in the past 30, 60 days simply by paying the agents, a little extra to do the job that they're already supposed to be doing. And so we're not paying for reviews. We're paying the agent to do what they're kind of already supposed to be doing, right? Yeah. And so that helps big time, man. That, like you said, that's a really, really, really big deal. And I told agents, I'm like, look, let's go get 1,000 reviews. I'm fine with this. We get 1,000. I'm willing to write the check for up to $10,000. Let's go do it. Let's go have fun with it. And we even let our administrative staff and all that participate as well, because they're out hustling. and closing transactions, and they're running into clients all the time. So if they want to get a review from a client, colleague, whatever, then fine, $10 to them too. And that makes a big deal, man. When you incentivize even a small amount, $10, not everybody's doing it, but so what? We'll get those extra 1,000 reviews in the next couple months.
What else on the tech side are you interested in right now? What are things you're like really excited about?
Well, we're in the process of switching some of our websites around, which is nice. We're looking at, Sierra, where we're just went live with a new Sierra website, which is pretty fun. And the thing I like about it is, and also using some of the technology that you and I have talked about being able to share, all those leads into one spot, you know what I mean? And not have to worry about APIs and is it all going to work, and just getting it all into one place, man, because we got a team our size. The problem that we've got is that it's multiple, we incentivize agents to bring personal transactions, right? So they don't get 50-50 on their personals. They actually make more than that. So if they bring that in, I want to make sure that it's truly a personal transaction. Like, how do you make sure that's truly personal? And so when I got marketing all over the city, and some of it's phone call based, right? Of course, you record the phone call, but who has time to sit there and listen to 150 phone calls, right? So how do you go through and make sure that the leads that the agents are working are all personal leads or are team leads, And so that's our big struggle right now. And so trying to get every lead that ever exists within our organization uploaded into one CRM is our big, hairy, audacious goal for 2020, just to make sure that we're going to keep winning, right?
The systems I'd recommend to help you with that, one is RealSync. That's the one that I personally invested in as an investor. RealSync, RealSynch, mm-hmm. and they create integrations for Sierra Interactive, so you can get all your leads going bi-directionally in Sierra. And then another one is MailParser.io. MailParser.io sucks the info out of an email and then pushes it into your CRM.
Very nice. Okay.
Yeah. What else? So you got you like Sierra, Bird Eye. What are some other cool pieces of tech?
Other tech. Let's see. So the other thing is, the same Zoom video that we're doing right now, we use a lot of Zoom internally as well, because whenever I do manager meetings and also sales meetings, keep in mind, I can't be in front of all the agents, right? So I can, somewhat keep track of them. We've learned that because each of the locations I have has a sales manager in it. So I've got 7 sales managers, and some of them have grown big enough now where they actually have a second, person as well that's helping out. And so imagine trying to get 14 people on one conference call and everybody weighing in and make sure they're all listening. So we switched over to Zoom video to do that. So that's helped us from a collaboration standpoint. And that goes back to the same thing we talked about at the beginning, which is communication and leadership. That was really setting the stage for us, growing forward. But to be honest with you, man, we aren't looking for and trying to, I've been same CRM, same lead systems. We don't chase a ton of shiny objects, just to be 100% honest with you, man.
What do you think about Sisu? That's one I'm really excited about.
Yeah. Sisu's one that we've looked at. We've not pulled the trigger on it and got it up and running in all the offices yet. You're talking about for like agent, phone calls and appointment set and all that stuff, agent accountability.
Yeah, so it extracts all the data points out of your CRM automatically and then populates them on a leaderboard, and it's updated dynamically, mm-hmm. kind of like a sports scoreboard. And you can see your agents move up and down the roster, and like for call nights, and the gamification stuff is super cool. And then it just, for like a leader, it helps you understand where are the holes in the agent's skills, so you can help coach them up to convert. So no, I like it. So right now, our issue is getting everything solidified in a single CRM, right? That's our big thing, is trying to figure out how to do that, because we're still using Commissions Inc. right now as our main CRM, and the agent's very happy with that, very comfortable with that. But we're using multiple platforms, and so getting those data points extracted out of multiple platforms into a single Sisu is a bit of a challenge. I find a lot of this technology stuff is built for teams that are typically single locations and 10 to 20 agents, right? There's a ton of technology out there for that. Yeah. There's not a ton of technology out there for teams with 80 agents, because there's just not. How are you facilitating so you got agents that focus on geographic territories, right? So I'm assuming the lead flow mm-hmm. is routed based off geographic territories. Is that accurate?
Correct. Yeah, because so we're in 4 markets, and they're all about 100 miles away from each one, right?
So do you have a CRM dedicated to each one with a front end facing buy side website?
Yes.
Yeah. So like maybe it's Greenville.com, Greenville Real Estate or whatever, and then Charleston Real Estate. And then do they all go into the same back-end sync system?
Not currently, no. They run into separate backends.
Oh man, that's a huge pain in the ass.
I know. Well, you can. I mean, as the admin side, admin meaning the super admin, you can roll it all up in one, but the agents and sales managers cannot do that, right? So it's basically with a lot of these platforms, it's either hey, you got agent view or you got like full blown team leader view, right? It's like no in between. There's no sales manager view, which is like a half view, and so you either got to give them full access to everything or you give them access to only a few things, and so.
So are you thinking with Sierra Interactive, they're going to build you like multiple front-end facing websites and then they all tie into one back-end?
Yes. And they also will, that's the goal. And they also have the ability to do multiple different levels of, admin users as well, right? And so if you're a sales manager over one location, then you can have those people underneath you that are reporting to you rolled up into your dashboard analytics, and you can still see leads from the entire city, but you can't see what the agents at another office are doing.
Man, I don't know about you, but I'm like pretty, Firepoint's another good one. But I feel like Firepoint and Sierra Interactive are two that are like kind of like Boomtown back in the day. Right. And like they are working their ass off to get ahead of everybody, Well,
we were close to pulling the trigger with Firepoint. And again, we're happy with Sync as well in terms of their lead generation ability. But I agree with you. They've closed their API also. It's hard to get a lot of this stuff off, in Sync. But the problem with Firepoint is, we've got 220,000 leads total. And so Firepoint doesn't believe that they can support all of that in one backend CRM. So, we were very, very close to doing that because of the large lead number. That's what's kind of held us back from, we don't want the thing to sit there and, do the circle of death for 30 seconds before it loads the first stack of 20 leads, right?
Yep. Cool. Jeff, what's the next step for you, man? Like you got this behemoth of a business, like you're crushing it in your market. Everybody knows who you are. You're like a damn celebrity in the market. Like what's next for you? We're like,
couple of things.
You were saying 1,000 deals 5-6 years ago. Now, where are you going now?
Well, first off, JCRE, Jeff Cook Real Estate is definitely our primary goal. I've got a couple other business ventures I'll tell you about real quick. But with Jeff Cook Real Estate, we want to do 4,000 families served by 2025. So we basically got 6 years to go from 1,600 to 4,000. And I think we can pull that off with 16 locations. Right now we're at 8 locations, but we can pull that off with 16 locations and about 200, 300 agents. Somewhere in that range. That's our goal. That's the goal, is to get there by 2025. Mostly in the state of South Carolina, possibly a little bit in North Carolina. But our goal is to be like the dominant real estate company in South Carolina. That's our BHAG. That's our focus.
What inspires you to keep pushing so hard?
It's I see it's the same mantra instead of calling it transaction and family served. I don't get to see that as much as I don't sell houses anymore specifically myself. But I see how my agents getting able to do that makes them happy and also fulfills them and also allows them to make a nice income, and also gives, an operations center, also gives them a lot of, be able to come up with these creative marketing ideas, the billboard ideas, to build systems to process just a ton of closings and listings. Like that just gives them joy. The average age of our company is probably 34, 35 years old. We're a young company. Everybody's hustling and bustling. Got amazing cultures. People travel together, vacation together, hang out together. They'll leave work together and go eat dinner together. I mean, it's just that's just what I thrive on, like I don't feel like I've got to have, even though my name was on the door, I'm not the smartest person in this happened to get here first, right? But it's allowing all of their brain power to work together to help us build this thing for the next level in collaboration with me. And it's not just me doing it. It's everybody doing it. And I feel like if I don't carry us to the next level of 4,000 or allow them to get it, if I don't get out of the way to allow them to go to 4,000. Are you shredding something, dude?
No. I'm sorry. I was grabbing my pen. I'm taking notes.
Gotcha. No problem. So that's all right. So, the deal is that if we don't get them to 4,000 as an office or as a company, then I'm going to rob them of what they can experience joy-wise, and growth. Because I grew it to 1,000. It was the main difference from going from 0 to 1,000 that I've learned from going from 1,000 to 2,000 is that 0 to 1,000, really 0 to 100 especially, but then from 100 to 1,000, really the same thing. a lot of that rests on my shoulders. I got to be the one at every meeting. I got to be the one with all the vision. I got to be the one motivation, pep talking. Whenever you're 1,000 and beyond, you have to remove yourself from that. Really, probably 600, 700 and beyond. You have to remove yourself from that. You can't be that person anymore. If the company requires you to carry that role anymore, you can't grow that fast. You can't be in so many places. So there's got to be players that are on the team that have the ability to step in and have that same leadership capacity as well. And this goes back to what we were talking about a little bit earlier, right? So replacing yourself as a buyer's agent first, and then replacing yourself as a listing agent, then you're replacing yourself in front of your sales agents. That's even harder than replacing yourself at the kitchen table as a listing agent. So that's kind of step 3 of the process, is replacing yourself. It's the evolution of building a team. Step 1 again is replacing yourself in front of a buyer. Step 2 is replacing yourself with a listing agent to go get a listing. And then step 3 is replacing yourself in front of some of your own agents with sales managers and administrative staff. That's step 3 of this thing, as far as the evolution of our team, of how we've developed and grown. And now that they've caught that vision and we can recreate that, boom, we can scale a lot faster, because it doesn't require you truly to be the one standing in front of a sales meeting trying to rah-rah the agents all the time, right?
Yeah.
So that's really the secret in it, is the leadership side of not me being necessarily a better leader, although that has to happen too. I've got to teach the guys beside me to be better leaders, so that they can then teach the people behind them how to be better real estate agents.
For people watching this, you and I, Jeff, we went through kind of in tandem at the same time, a lot of very similar coaching programs.
Right.
Like we were going to the conferences together. And something I think I figured out about the real estate industry is most of the coaching programs out there, they're all amazing, by the way. And I owe a massive debt to all of them. I always tell Jay Kinder when I see him in person, like, dude, you're like the one person I can count out of the 5 people that are closest to me that like literally changed my life. I always tell Jay that when I see him. But my point is like every coaching company, most of them are keeping you on the transaction treadmill.
Right.
And it's like a totally different skill set you have to learn to actually transition from owning a job and being self-employed to building a business. And it's all this stuff leadership related. And there's nobody out there really teaching that. Like, how do you actually become a CEO? Like nobody, I remember when I got to that point where I replaced myself as a listing agent, and then I brought on somebody to run sales meetings. And like, I was literally in this mental space where I felt lost. Like I didn't know what to do with myself.
Right. Yeah. They don't teach that, right? Like nobody teaches that. Like that's not in any of the coaching programs, right?
Yeah.
No, you're right.
So a little plug, Jeff, something you should know is I created something called a CEO Masterclass, and I took all the things. So what happened to me, and I don't know if I told you this, but after I went through like every coaching program out there, I started paying for leadership coaching and training through other things like that are totally unrelated to real estate. And that like is where my mind really, expanded and the horizons got open. So I teach this thing called CEO Masterclass. And if you have anybody on your team that wants to go through it, check it out. But anyways, I just a little plug for that. I have some other questions I got to ask you. But what were you going to say?
I was saying, let me say one thing before you go. You asked about other business ventures, right?
Yeah.
What else we're doing? And so that's probably one of the things you got on your list there. But so here's the thing. Here's a lesson I learned early on for somebody that is a team leader out there. Whenever you go to a conference, whenever you listen to something like this, it's like, man, we got to do better. We got to do better. We got to do better. Let's call a meeting with everybody, right? Let's get everybody in the room and let's figure out like how we can like tear it down and start back over, right? And don't get me wrong, I did that a fair share number of times. And sometimes my staff would hate when I'd go to conferences. I'd come back with 20 things and I give each of them 5 things to do, 3 things, whatever to go do and implement. And they're like, dude, we hadn't even perfected the things that we got from last month's conference that you went to yet. You figured there's another, And so I realized, I was like, when I go to a conference, whenever I listen to something like, podcast or whatever, I'm trying to figure out what are my top 3, top 5 biggest takeaways that where we're at as far as the maturity of an organization. Like, what are the things that we have the bandwidth to do, and what are the things that's going to move the needle forward the most? Because you can write down 100 things, but you really need to focus on 3 to 5. And so we put those in our quarterly initiatives, and it was amazingly satisfying for the people in the organization because they could all focus on exactly what was needed to be done, but it was incredibly unsatisfying for me because I wanted to do 25 things at once instead of only doing 3 to 5. And so I was like, I can't go back on my word on this. So what I decided to do was create a 2nd, 3rd, and 4th organization doing different things. And so I can run over here and do 3 things over here, and then run over this organization and do 3 things, and then run over here to this organization and do 3 things. And so I'll just tell you what those different things are. One is property management. About 2 3 years ago, we started doing property management. We haven't been massively successful, but we've got almost 100 doors now, which is great. The nice thing about property management is you get paid monthly, no matter what. So the tenant pays as long as they pay, then you get paid. So I got 70 paychecks, that show up. 70, 80 paychecks that show up every single month. That's awesome.
How did you find the leader to run that so you didn't have to get involved?
So all of these that I'm getting ready to tell you about, every one of them were previous administrative or agents that helped me that showed leadership potential as we started expanding. And I asked them, hey, do you want to leave Jeff Cook Real Estate and come over and help me launch this? And in some cases, they have access to profit. Some accesses, they have, a bigger salary if they hit certain goals, but never did I hire outside in. I always hired internally to run that. It's the same for each of my expansion locations too, minus the exception of one. All of those people grew from within, even relocated from within to that city to go launch that expansion location so we could do it the way. We call it the Jeff Cook way. We do it the Jeff Cook way, and they have the same culture in all the different locations. That's a really important deal.
So what else besides property management did you get into?
Flipping. We've done a lot of real estate investments. This year, we're on track to do about 60 to 70 flips. And these aren't just wholesale deals or get them under contract and sell them off. That's fun too. But this is actually deals where we're going in, gutting it, renovating it, putting it back on the market. So each of those are a 3 to 6 month. That life cycle is a 3 to 6 month deal. So we have anywhere from 11 to 15 of them going on at one time. One of my sales managers that runs in one of my Jeff Cook Real Estate offices is now coming over to help the lady that helped me start that company. About 3 years ago. He's coming over this year, and our goal next year is to do 100 flips and then continue. We just put up some iBuyer billboards, and they've been incredibly successful, by the way, in our area.
What do the billboards say?
It says strapped for cash. We can take over your payments, or need cash. We can buy your house. All the little bullshit signs you see on the side of the road in the corners that we buy houses. Put that on a billboard. Something like that on a billboard. It gives more credibility. It's really bizarre. Like that on a billboard seems to get a lot more traction than all those little signs on the side of the road.
What domain name are you sending them to? What's the URL?
Great question. I don't know that I know. TitanHomeBuyers.com. We've just redone that website. I think that's where we're sending it there, where they can actually get, the home value tool for real estate. Like when you put it in, it kicks you out of home value. But we wanted to create something like that for our investment company, right? So where you can actually get an offer on your home in real time. And we haven't gotten to figure out how you actually position the offer just yet. But what we've done is you go in there and it's just like a home value tool on a regular real estate website. You put your address in, then ask you some questions about the house. When do you want to sell it? How much should you sell it for? And then the last form is, what's your name, phone number, and email address. It's like a 3 or 4 part form that basically walks them through the steps of getting an offer on their home from our investment company. And that seems to work really, really well. We have a lot of traction on that. You can find that at TitanHomeBuyers.com. And that's my real estate investment company. If you want to check out Rent Holy City, that's our property management company, RentHolyCity.com. And then the last but not least, the other thing that we've gotten into is we've created a real estate school where we can go out and, we've got an instructor and all that stuff. And we're not doing that for profit center, we're doing that for agent count, right? So that's one of our main recruiting sources. So all the profit we take in that, we dump it right back into marketing for the real estate school. So we're running a real estate school. It dawned on me that this is how some of these corporations view real estate, because these real estate schools around town are not happy about this, by the way, because all we're doing, they're doing real estate school to make a profit. I'm doing real estate school not to make a profit, but to find agents, right? So we have 2 different motivations. So every dollar that comes in from real estate school, we're taking and reinvesting into more people in our online classes and our company and recruiting and all that. Like it pays for a big portion of our recruiting, and we don't care to make any money on the real estate school. So it's not the mission. So funny enough, what's happened with it is that, that thing's grown and it's started to compete with a lot of the other regular real estate schools in town. And so it's been a nice little leaderboard for our agents. And there's one more, actually, we've started a title company here in South Carolina as well. We do a title company as well. So there's about 5 or 6 different, again, when I get bored with one, I used to tear that thing down. Now I run over, start another one and do something. So there's, 5, 6. My wife owned a home inspection company for a long period of time. She just actually sold that. So that's, we got out of that business just because it's not a lot of return profit wise from the amount of work that goes into it. But,
something I want to bring up is, and there's 2 points to this question. So one thing I think a lot of people don't realize is once you build your business to a critical mass, there is a lot of, somebody could call it downline revenue opportunities if you want through joint ventures, like what you just described.
Right.
And these joint venture opportunities are, generating hundreds of thousands of dollars in net income per entity. And so something I want to ask you about is, I don't know when it was, 2 years ago, maybe. You did a public post to saying you were joining EXP Realty, and you ended up pulling out and not joining EXP. And so, in the real estate industry, I think, and let me just do a quick disclaimer here. I think EXP, what they're doing is really cool. I think the downline revenue stream, I think they one-upped KW for sure. I think they got a great, thing going. But I think a lot of real estate agents and people building real estate teams, they think the downline revenue is in recruiting, but that is pennies compared to the joint venture opportunities once you reach critical mass with your team. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I would. There's a lot of guys making a lot of money doing the downline revenue share stuff. And we had hoped to get in there and make a lot of money with it as well. It just didn't work out based on being an independent and based on some of the same exact billboards that you saw back there. EXP doesn't like, things like that, right? So, being an independent, we're able to make those decisions and grow our company at our own rate, the way we want to. And they're a publicly traded company. So the thing is that they have to make sure that they watch out for, what they're doing. But likewise, I also have to watch out for my brand and what I want to do. So unfortunately, the marriage just didn't work really well. But as far as, the other.
But the people that are making a lot of money in downline revenue streams, and you and I know most all these people, they've been on stage for 10 to 20 years. Right. Building a massive audience, and that's how they get up to making a lot of money, right?
Right. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it is true. It's not that it's a significant amount of work. My thing is, if you don't have a massive following, and I'm talking about even followings, probably bigger than you and I, right? So if you
tens of thousands of people, tens of thousands.
Yeah, tens of thousands. You don't have a massive following, tens of thousands. You're not going to be successful doing the downline recruiting and selling real estate. And that's what we learned. We learned that even with an influence, you can make some money doing it, but it's going to take your eye off the prize of selling houses. So you either make money selling houses, you make money doing that, unless you have the massive following. That's and you major influence. So I think you're on the money there. And some of those joint ventures, depending on the state, title insurance. Somebody wants to reach out to us about title insurance to help them out with their state, get off the ground. Be happy to help them out, figure it out. There's some money in that. It's different from state to state. It's very different from state to state. We're in the process of doing it in North Carolina, Virginia right now, and it's just completely different there than it is in South Carolina.
The one little asterisk, and I think little thing we should share with people, and Jeff, so you and I both done title before. I don't know if I told you this, we sold our title company last year. It was very, very lucrative deal. I learned a lot from going through that. But my point is, before you go into a joint venture or some, other venture, that can feed off your core business, you really need to get to a critical mass. Otherwise, that business is a distraction, and it's going to limit your growth of the core business. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, it will. I mean, you need to have I didn't mess with any joint ventures until I had my real estate company to a point where I wasn't the only leader. Right. So, and a good taste test on that is, can you take off for 2 weeks today if you had to, and come back 2 weeks from now and things still be running? And if the answer is no, because you didn't go any listing appointments, or the answer is no, because there's nobody else that can pinch hit for you in a sales meeting, it's probably not the right time to go do a whole bunch of joint ventureship. Keep growing, keep getting there, keep building up leaders. And then that's that critical mass that you're talking about, Chris, where people have the ability to get to that point where they can, it can sustain without them physically having to be in the building. Because I'm less than 20 hours a week now. Because again, there's 6 different organizations. So I'm 15 to 20 hours a week max in Jeff Cook Real Estate. That's all the time I have for it, unfortunately, because I've got 4 or 5 other deals that I have to spend time doing those. Mm-hmm. So I can't spend time with it. And I think your point is that if you didn't have, if you're 40 to 60 hours a week in your real estate business or company, which I was up until about 3 years ago, then it's not time to do a joint venture yet. First, get your real estate company so that it can succeeding without you having to be there all the time, and then think about the joint venture.
Yeah. Jeff, how do you balance all this stuff? You got 2 young kids. Are you sleeping at all? Like, how do you manage all this?
Dude, I'm having the best time of my life. I just right before we jumped on, I had a call this morning, and then hit the gym for hour and a half, and knocked that out, man. So yeah, I'm having fun with it, man. I'm having the best time of my life. My kids are 3 and 6. Me and my wife and kids just got back from fall break yesterday. We were out of town for 3 or 4 days, so we have to schedule in vacations. There's a lot of meetings, absolutely. There's a lot of data download, a lot of data dump. But the thing is, you got to get really skilled at making quick decisions, right? And so you got to be somewhat witty. You got to work on your skills of hearing news, good or bad or indifferent, making a quick decision and sticking by that and being the right decision. And that comes with practicing and priming that over time. So yeah, it's figuring out that work-life balance is important. But Saturdays and Sundays for me, that there's no business that happens there, and there's also no business typically that happens after 7. So that's my cutoff. I got to be done by 7, if not before, to be home with my family.
That's awesome, man. There's 2 things I want to get to before we close out, because I know we're both running out of time here. One is, how do you come up with those ideas for your billboards?
Yeah. So
what's that look like? What's that process look like?
Well, a couple of things. So that's one of, again, I'm 15 to 20 hours a week, 3 hours a week, if not 4 hours. 4 out of those 15 hours that we're talking about are me in the marketing department. Brainstorming, whiteboarding, strategizing. We have the billboard rep come in with us, and we all sit around a round table, literally 6 to 8 of us, and we map out, like, in the next couple of weeks, you're ready to map out all of 2020 based on maybe movies that are coming out, or based on ideas, or what's going on with the iBuyer. Like, how do we get into that? Like, how do we figure all that out? And so we know January 1, all 10 of the campaigns that we're going to run next year. About 10 campaigns, yeah.
Do you have a swipe file of all of your billboards?
Yeah, we can share all that with you. I think we got them. We can post them. I don't think we've got them all right at the moment, but we can get that together for you, and I'll share it with you.
That'd be awesome, man. Okay, so the last question I have for you is, you've got a lot of ventures that are spinning off a lot of cash, and I'm curious, from a wealth building perspective, what are you doing with the cash that you do make? Like, how are you reinvesting it? Is it going back into starting new businesses? Are you buying rental properties, putting money in Wall Street? Like, what are you doing from a wealth building perspective to set you and your family up?
Combination of all that, minus the Wall Street thing. I'm not really big into all the stock stuff, so this is not my forte. I love real estate because here's the thing. So with real estate, right, let's say you put 20% down, you can purchase 100% asset, right? So 20% yields you 100%. Whereas if I put that same, let's call it $100,000 house. I put 20,000 down, buy the $100,000 house. I got 20K into the deal, but I've got an asset of 100K appreciating, right? So let's say that's 3 to 5%, whatever. It's still on the 100K, not on the 20K. So it's the leverage of real estate. Right. I love that. I love that more than I love putting 20K in a stock market and leveraging the 20K. I can't use what I call OPM, other people's money. I like using other people's money to be able to, continue to grow. Hey, give me 5 minutes, buddy. Sorry about that. So anyways, so the idea is that if I can go out and purchase real estate and purchase houses and use other people's money, whether it be banks' money or whether it be loans that other people have already taken out, or even private money, at this point we've got a lot of relationships going where we have the ability to borrow private cash behind the scenes that ain't even really recorded on it's just relationships that we build over time for other wealthy individuals.
You starting to build your own personal investment fund.
Exactly. Yeah. And then the interesting thing then is becoming the bank. That's kind of the final prong on the spoke of the wheel, if you will, is that, at first you go in, start doing some wholesaling, buy some properties and sell them at a bigger, resell them, flip the contract, if you will, without ever closing on them. Then there's flipping, where you buy it, you hold on to it, you fix it up, you flip it. And then after that, if you mix some money doing that, then it's sort of, the process of, acquiring some long-term rentals, which are those 100 properties that we're going to do next year, again, about 60 this year. Half of them are flips and half of them are rentals. So we're going to hold half of them, which is nice. So that means the next year we'll go into the year having 30, 40 rentals, which would be great. And that also helps seed our property management company too, because it's found business that somebody's got to manage it, right? Mm-hmm. So the final part of that is becoming the bank. And what I mean by that is I don't have, $100 million sitting there where I'm going to, go out and lend, $100 million out to these people. But what it is if I can have other people lend money to me, say it's 6%, I can turn around and lend it out at 8, 10%, whatever, on short-term investments, then there's a margin there, And
it makes me think of my Circuit City.
Exactly. Your Circuit City analogy, your eBay. Yeah. So anyways, and so the bank that lends you the money at 6, through line of credits or whatever, they don't care as long as you pay the 6%, they don't care. And some other investors out there will be happy to pay 10%, sometimes 12% in terms of a short-term interest rate loan because it's a non-conforming type loan.
Yep.
And so becoming the bank is sort of our ultimate BHAG on that. And getting compound interest back is just so much better than, in my opinion, than putting money into the stock market. But, again, that's like step 6 out of the process. Step 1 is just, buy some investment, buy real estate, people. Don't just sell it. Buy real estate somehow, buy real estate.
Man, it's funny, man. I see more and more similarities to us, and you and I want to have some conversations with you offline on getting access to what are called funds of funds.
Yeah.
So are you familiar with this?
Yeah,
Funds of
I've
funds.
heard of it. Yeah, I've heard of it. I don't know exactly what it's about.
So my horizon has opened up on the whole like financing side and building a fund and all this. And anyways, it's a really cool thing. But Jeff, I know we're right at an hour. I know you've got to run.
Let me share one more thing.
Please.
Final business venture that we did. We just started a company called Realty Partners. All right, realtypartners.com. We have an event coming up in January.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that. Tell me, that's what I want. That before I was closing out, I was literally about to ask you about that.
Yeah. So this is it. So in January 9, 10, and 11, you guys write that down on your calendar. January 9, 10, and 11. We're going to invite everybody that wants to come to our offices, come see it. We get people that ping us all the time and said, hey, can I come to your office and spend a day? And I'd love to do that. The problem is we wouldn't be able to get anything done if everybody showed up every day to come hang out and ask questions. So this is like the opportunity. And the tickets are super cheap. It's like $300, which covers the venue and all the food that we're going to give you over the 3 days. So it's super cheap. We're not trying to make money off of it. What we're doing, though, is potentially having a coaching company where we're going to create long-term where people, can get real estate coaching if they so want it. If they just want to stay at our office, that's fine too. And also talk about these same investment strategies and, the money part and that whole deal. So on January 9, just to share this with you real quick, January 9, we're going to open all of our offices up for people to come in and view the sales managers, meet our agents, get all of our checklist, our buyer checklist, our seller checklist, closings, listings, and that whole deal, meet our ISA team. And then on the 10th and 11th, we're going to do a deep dive into like a mastermind where we actually sit around and talk about what each of these departments do and how we maximize it and how we grow and evolution of our team about how we went from, over the last 15, 16 years, how we got to the part that we're at now. Because keep in mind, at one point, we were at 200 transactions too. And so the guy trying to figure out how to go from there to 300, or the guy going from 100 to 200, or even the guy going from 40 to 80, like that's all stuff that we're going to be covered at this event. And again, January 9 through 11, realtypartnerslive.com is where you can find the information.
Okay, so let me just recite that because I wrote that down. So January 9th, 10th, and 11th. On January 9th, you're going to open up your office in Charleston, South Carolina.
Yep.
The event's $300, and you go to Realty Partners
Live.
realtypartnerslive.com.
That's it. Yeah,
right, I believe it or not, I've never been to Charleston. I've always wanted to go out there just to hang out with you. I feel like we need to go do something, man, because I don't see you as much as I used to.
I know it. We need to, man. We need to get the old band back together, man.
Well, Jeff, thanks so much for being on this. Every time, it's always a pleasure just talking to you on the phone. Anytime I can binge your on. I mean, I over the years I always randomly call you. You never call me, so you're always one of the guys in my circle. I feel like that's always like trying to level up. And something fascinating you said that I really, really love, and this is something I found, is like when you start hiring talent, like they actually end up pushing you further and like push you out of your comfort zone and make you want to build something even bigger. So like in my mind, my thing was always getting to 500 deals. This was like 9 years ago. I was like, I wanted to get to 500 deals. I heard you say 1,000. I'm like, man, I'm thinking too small. But I was like, okay, I'm just going to keep focusing on 500. And then I got to 500. And then I realized like, I got to keep growing the organization. Otherwise the people on my team have hit a ceiling. Right. And like, Tony Robbins always says that as human beings, we find happiness through forward and upward trajectory. So it's our jobs as leaders to constantly level up, keep making the vision bigger and bigger and growing and growing and growing. So, man, I love everything you said. I can't thank you enough for being on here on our podcast, CEO Secrets. I hope everybody learned a ton of stuff on our podcast here. And be sure to check, man, y'all need to take Jeff up on this. fly out. I mean, that's freaking cheap, $300 to spend 3 days with Jeff. Go check out his operation. Charleston's a super cool city. I mean, I hear so much about it. So anyways, thanks again, Jeff. I really appreciate your time. And for those of you guys listening, stay tuned in to CEO Secrets for our next episode. And if you're watching this on Facebook Live and you asked any questions in the Facebook group, I'll try to get to your questions after we finish up here.
Much love, guys. Have a good one. Thank you, Chris.
Yeah, thank you.